Are you faced with a new situation in your life where you received a surprising diagnosis about your child, and now you have come to the conclusion that you will be raising a neurodivergent child or a child with medical complexities, and the road ahead is looking significantly challenging? Well, if so, I have great information and news for you, because I was also faced with that similar situation almost 4 years ago. And I would like to share the number one most critical and valuable key component when realizing that the life that you had envisioned for yourself, for your family, for your child is going to look very different. There are feelings of grief and sadness and fear and anxiety and anger that arise, and it's important to make your way through those emotions. And on the other side of that, the critical component, the key factor, is practicing flexibility and adaptability. So I'm talking about flexibility of the mind, flexibility in your identity, flexibility in your career, flexibility in how you see the world and how you see your child and how you see your role in your child's life and your role in your own life. And so the more flexible and adaptable that you can be when navigating this new challenge and this new journey in your life, I have found the more joy you will find, the more victories, the more celebrations, the more fulfillment, and the more happiness that you will have. So the way this all works is that if you remain rigid and fixed in your mindset and in your identity, then you're not going to be open to explore new ways of doing things. And when you are raising a child who is very different from a neurotypical child or from a child who doesn't have medical complexities, you have to think outside of the box. You have to think creatively, not only for support, medical devices, support, equipment that you're going to need to physically care for your child, but also in the structure, the schedule, the availability of support, the environment. And all of these needs continue to evolve and change as your child continues to grow and develop. So what works at 4 months is not going to be what works at 1 year, which is not going to be what works at 3 years, which is not going to be what works at 10 years for the age of the child. So in addition to observing what is working and what is not working, the flexibility and the adaptability comes into play when you apply what it is that you're learning through your observations, and what it is you're learning through attuning to your child, to your child's needs, to the needs of your family, of your home. And so remembering to continue to practice flexibility is very important. Not only flexibility of how you approach problems and situations that come up over time, but also flexibility in how you see yourself. Perhaps, for example, before you had your child, you envisioned your career on a certain trajectory, on a certain path. And after you had your child, or after you have been hit with the news that your child is going to be a little bit different or have different challenges, now you might need to see your career in a completely different light. And it doesn't mean that it's any worse. It doesn't mean that it's not as important as someone else or your colleague's career. But it means that you have to be flexible in the career path. You have to be flexible in your time schedule. You have to be flexible in maybe a leadership position that you might have in a company. And you might need some additional support from your work environment in terms of providing that flexibility in your schedule that you need to care for your child with special needs, or who needs special assistance, who has unique challenges. And perhaps the roles flip, where maybe your significant other, your partner, spends more time at home and you work more, or maybe you spend more time at home and your partner works more, or you figure something out where both of you could spend more time at home. So this is where the flexibility comes in, and it's critically important almost every single moment of every day moving forward as you traverse this journey of caring for a child with unique challenges, medical complexities, a child who might be neurodivergent. The reason I wanted to share this information is because I recently came across a paper that was published this year in 2024, and it gave a lot of statistics. It provided a lot of numbers about the results to the family, to the marriage, to the home life for people who are caring for a child with disabilities or special needs. And what it said was that the majority of marriages end up in divorce, and usually the mother ends up completely giving up or transitioning from the career, from working to being at home, and the husband's work hours are usually cut because of the amount of assistance and support that's needed at home for the child. And the sibling of the child with disabilities can have limited socialization. And so these are just a few examples of the demand that takes place, the demand that is required of the caregivers for any child with disabilities or medically complex issues. And so basically, whether you accept it or not, there are going to be new demands and new challenges that need to be traversed, new problems that need to be solved. And that takes a great amount of flexibility, adaptability. It takes a great amount of creativity, of thinking outside of the box. And it takes a great amount of self-confidence and belief in yourself that you're going to be able to navigate this journey and figure out these solutions as the problems arise. And I think that is the critical underlying support factor for persisting in a state of flexibility and adaptability in order to maintain this characteristic, the skill of being flexible. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you have what it takes. You have to believe that you're going to figure it out. You have to believe that if anyone can do it, it's you. And so I hope that this video brings you some form of motivation, some form of encouragement, insight, wisdom, and I hope that it also brings you hope, because as challenging and tough as the journey may seem, not only at the beginning, but throughout the journey, at certain turns and pivots and hills and valleys, hope is one of those things it's important to look for, it's important to find, and it's important to cultivate. So I hope that you get some form of hope from this video as well. Thank you.